Let's get ready to rumble!
5 Live Boxing.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, good evening. My name is Big Mo and welcome to the 2022 BBC Boxing Awards, coming to you from central London. This evening is about celebrating and recognizing the men and women who have reached the pinnacle of their sport during the last 12 months. So, without further ado, let's introduce our judges for this evening's ceremony. The 4-time super middleweight world champion, Mr. Carl Froch. The former WBO super featherweight champion, Mr. Barry Jones. And your host for this evening, Mr. Steve Butts.
Thank you very much indeed, Big Mo. And we have found a glorious venue, a basement in Soho. The pair of you, are you happy with everything? You've still got your coat on. It's nice and cold. Are you both happy? Barry, you happy?
I'm over the moon that he didn't call me Barry McGuigan.
Yeah,
And Carl's devastated. He never mentioned something that's happened recently.
Yeah.
He's picking on me about this Hall of Fame, but I know he's proud of me.
No, the Hall of Fame thing.
No, he should have mentioned it. I am proud.
That was going to be part of Section 6 of the show, but I don't mind
spoiled,
doing it straight away.
Spoiled it now, Barry.
Hall of Fame. You're in. You are now a
amazing.
Hall of Famer, a proper Hall of Famer.
Listen, I'm so proud of the fact that I've been inducted. It's amazing. On the run-up, when I probably thought I wasn't getting it, I wasn't that bothered. But then once I got it, I was like, yes, get in.
That'll do.
Because your name goes into the shortlist for a couple of years and then you just get picked. Yeah. But to finally get inducted, I mean, I've been retired 8 years and let's be honest, I had a great career. I fought world title fight back-to-back since winning against Pascal. And it was against fighters that went on to then win world titles.
What a sequence, Carl.
And I've beaten unbeaten fighters as well. So when you take the zero off a fighter that then goes on to win a title in a different weight division, it needs to be acknowledged, and it's now being acknowledged, and I'm very happy.
We acknowledge it all the time. And if we don't, it's okay, because you do.
Always.
And that's always good. That's the way it should be, by the way.
It's a standout career, and well-deserved. Well-deserved.
We've got loads of different categories here today. I don't think we'll get through all of them, but it makes no difference. The way it's going to work is quite simple. We're going to talk about something, and then we're going to work as the judge and the jury and come up with a potential winner. It's not going to work as smooth as that, but the one thing that does work smooth is Big Mo, and here he is with category number 1.
Fight of the year. The nominees are Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano at Madison Square Garden, New York. Joshua Buatsi versus Craig Richards at the O2 Arena, London. Michaela Mayer versus Alicia Baumgardner at the O2, London. Lee Wood versus Michael Conlon at the Motorpoint Arena, Nottingham.
So there's the 4 fights. Taylor Serrano, Buatsi, Richards, Mayer, Baumgardner, Wood and Conlon. And you could probably come up with 4 more. Where do you stand on those 4, Barry? Which one was your favourite?
I've tussled between 2. But I'm going to go with, because I was ringside, I'm going to go with Taylor and Serrano. I just think it was a unique atmosphere for the starter, where you have, usually on a big occasion like that, on a big night like that, it's always a Canelo night or a Joshua night or a Fury night or a Froch night, whatever it is. But that was evenly split. I've never known a big fight like that to be so evenly split in the crowds. And the fight lived up to expectations. It was literally after 3 rounds, it seemed like a war of attrition already. It was just, and the drama that unfolded, Taylor seemed to be out on her feet, she fought back then in the middle rounds, and then it was like round 6 or 7, she was really in trouble. And in the last round, you see that iconic photo where a knee is inches off the floor, and if that knee touches the floor for just a millisecond,
That was gone.
she loses the fight. But she found the resolve from someone to bring herself up, fight on, and become a deserved winner.
And Carl, that classic end to any fight where the bell's sounding and sounding and sounding, that rocky ending where it's not just one ring, it's multiple rings. Even if it didn't happen, in my mind it happened, and the referee has to jump in the middle of them. Even if it didn't happen, in my mind, that's how that fight ended.
Yeah, neither of them wanted to stop throwing punches, and they both wanted to just nick the round at the end and just land whatever they could just to try and convince the judges. But Katie Taylor's like that quite a lot. when her skills not working, she's very skillful, top amateur, outstanding amateur. But when she's not able to pick her shots and use her skills and find openings and set traps with her work, what she does is she just works away with high workload, work rates, a little bit similar to Joe Kawasaki when he used to fight. And I'm not giving him any stick at all, but a lot of the times he just used to outwork his opponents and win every round. And that's what Katie Taylor does. She's just real good work ethic, doesn't stop throwing punches. It's hard to score against her. And she does that in most of her fights. And Serrano was giving it a back because she can bang. It was a really, really close, interesting fight.
There was a stage in that last round, especially when the bell went, they would have carried on. I mean, they had no energy left. It was amazing. They had no energy left. They exhausted all their energy. They were just throwing so many punches that they would have just carried on, continue going. You would have to separate them. It was. I took the cams off, my earphones off, to listen to the crowd because it was. You know, you've been some great fights throughout the years, and I know when the fight finishes and you go, "Oh, that was a good fight," or you just go, "Wow."
And what's your second one before I move to Carl? What would be your second one then? You said you were fighting. What was the one you were mainly tussling with? What was the alligator in your bath?
Wood Conlon.
Yeah.
It was just
event.
An unbelievable fight. It really was. And with just drama from the first round on.
Carl, obviously we haven't done too much rehearsal, so they may have been your number one and your number two choice. So you're going to have to go to your third choice if it was one of them. Which one would you heavily back if you had to?
Listen, well, the one I'm going for is Wood Conlon, and the two I agree with Barry Jones. It's got to be Taylor Serrano. I think that was a big event as well as a great fight. But the Wood Conlon, I was ringside for that one.
Yeah.
Barry wasn't there that night, but he was at the other one. And I think when you're there as well and you experience the event yourself, I was right on the ring apron commentating for DAZN.
Next to us, you were 4 feet from me.
And when Lee Wood got flattened, was he flattened at the end of round one? The bell gone, like out. It got up, the bell goes. He needed the bell as well, and Conlon couldn't miss him with that left cross, southpaw left cross, clean on the chin. And his legs were going. You're thinking any minute now he's going to get knocked over. He's not going to get up. And he managed to hang in there, fight right through to the dying seconds, almost a bit like Froch Taylor.
Yeah.
My first defence over in Connecticut. I mean, he needed the stoppage.
Trailing on all three scorecards. Needing a stoppage going into the last round.
It was like
Carl Froch style.
And so for me, just that finish, that's the only thing that's come close to my fight with Taylor. I don't want to talk about myself because Lee Wood fought the absolute fight of his life. It came back from getting flattened. And that stoppage was just brilliant. I mean, he hit him with a right hand and he was out on the rope. The ropes were holding him up. Then he put 3 or 4 together and knocked him out of the ring.
And then for dramatic effect, he lands in the arms of his brother and his father. And that's not me hyping it. That's what happened. Because they were standing. I've stood to give it a bit of emphasis. They were standing. They edged closer to the ring. There was nothing between the seats and the ring. And they're standing. And there's a point at it. It's that time. You know in a fight sometimes, Carl, when you're ringside, and it happens when you're in the ring, when you suddenly see more than you should be seeing. It taking more, especially at fights. It happens with Fury and Wilder, that 12th round, Barry. You're suddenly taking more, and it doesn't just take a second. The second allows you to look at loads of different things, a Matrix-style moment. Yeah. And there was a moment in that Lee Wood-Conlon fight when his brother and his dad were standing ready to catch him, and they were watching. That for me is phenomenal.
The irony of it all, I think, and I paraphrase here, Wood, I think in the press conference, Wood said to Conlon, if I'm still there in round 12, you're getting flattened. He said something along those lines.
Yeah, he said, if you're still standing in round 12, guess what? You're getting knocked out. If I haven't knocked you out by round 12, guess what? You're getting knocked out. That's
unbelievable.
And then he knocked him out in round 12.
Let's have a little look quickly, if we can, fight of the year. Buatsi and Richards. I don't care if there was a belt at stake. There wasn't a belt at stake. It was just absolute pride. It was South London pride. I thought it was an exceptional fight. Buatsi won. It was tight enough score-wise, 4 points, and a couple or two. Buatsi and Richards, Barry. Now, some people might say, Bunty, that's never fight of the year, but there was a lot at it. There was a bit of personal pride at stake.
Yeah, there was, because one guy boxed for a world title and did really well against Dimitri Bivol. And the other guy, who can argue in Buatsi, should have boxed for the world title by now. So it wasn't a crossroads fight, but it was literally who's going to take the next step up. Because Richards wants to get back to where he thinks he belongs because he was competitive in a world level. And Buatsi, who was one of the standouts of the GB in the Olympics in Rio for us, for sure, getting that bronze medal, and looked everything of a pro when he was in the Olympics.
Long time ago, Rio.
He should be. I know the pandemic would no sort of put a stop in his career, but he should have been so more far developed by now. this was the fight that he doesn't get over the line with Richards. Where does he go? And he delivered.
And a proper fight, Carl. Two got a proper fight.
Absolutely,
Buatsi.
it was a great fight. And Buatsi was the guy that everyone's expecting to win. Even himself, when he gets in that ring, he's thinking, "I'm going to win this. I'm expecting to win this."
Big on self-belief.
And Richards is thinking to himself, "You're not using me as a stepping stone, son. I'm gonna give you all I've got, and I'm gonna beat you." He went in there believing in himself, and it was a close fight, a great fight. And Buatsi obviously got the decision. Some people argue at ringside. I think the right man won, but
yeah, I did too. But Richards thinks he could have got it, but he's not screaming blue murder.
No, not at all. I mean, the close fights happen, don't they? But I think the right man got the nod. And Buatsi fought well, but Richards really did try and come away with that win.
You know the interesting thing about that fight? Here's a fight where there's an awful lot at stake, but the two of them couldn't bring themselves to be nasty because they're basically essentially decent fellas. You know, I mean, you don't have to have a slanging match all the time. And yet, one of the other contenders for Fight of the Year was an all-American clash at the O2 on that night of women, 11 women's fights, top of the bill, Claressa Shields against Savannah Marshall. Michaela Mayer against Alicia Baumgardner. The hate and the vitriolic, the nastiness between those two, well, and it spilled over into a spellbinding 10 rounds, Barry.
Well, it didn't need what it had. It didn't need to sell it that much. I think on paper...
It was natural hate.
Stylistically. No, even forget about that. Stylistically, it was always going to be a good fight. I was always going to say that's going to be fight of the night. I always felt it was going to be the fight that overshadowed the big fight, the Shields-Marshall fight. But they sold it just in case. And I think it started off a little bit tongue-in-cheek and turned in very quickly to be actually naturally, I don't like you. You know, the pushing and I spoke to people who were working on the broadcast there for TV, and they was like,
"This is genuine." Yeah,
they were worried about it was going to spill over and sort of jeopardize the fight, and they fought like two fighters didn't like each other, which is always nice to see. It's not nice to be in, but it's nice to see because you get a different level of intensity that you don't get with people who are too nicey.
And that adds, as you know, Carl, just a little bit of edge to it, just a little bit. When there's a genuine dislike, and this is not a phony dislike, a real dislike, which they've carried over right up through to Christmas.
Yeah, and the fans love a little bit of needle. I remember I boxed a guy called Michael Monaghan years ago, early on in my career.
One of the early ones. But it was a good fight. It was a good little fight.
Not a bad little fight, yeah. But he had beef with the Cobra for some reason. We used to spar him. He was squaring up to me at the weigh-in.
Third person yourself then?
No, third person myself. I'm a Hall of Famer, didn't you know?
You do it like...
So that's how it goes nowadays. So listen, and everyone in Nottingham, because that wasn't a big fight internationally. No one, I was building up. I don't even think I'd fought Alan Page for the English title.
Yeah.
But just that needle filled the crowds in Nottingham more than any.
It works, yeah. I remember, yeah.
It works, and that's what you got there with this fight.
I'm going to do this now. I was going to do it later on in the show, but I'll do it now. You know, on the day of the big fight, Tyson Fury against Dillian Whyte, Carl was doing some stuff for BBC, and he agreed to do, I think, at 7:30 in the morning, a BBC TV interview at the stadium. You remember this, Carl?
I'll never forget. I made the most of it.
So he goes out to the stadium. This is great. So he goes out to the stadium, and I don't know, there's one of the women presenting, and she's a brilliant presenter. And, she's delighted to have Carl Froch. I'm going to stand up again. She's delighted to have Carl Froch there, and it's going live at 7:35, and she's there, and there's the stadium in the background. So she comes live. She says, and I'm joined now by Carl Froch. And the first thing he does, he takes a breath, and he's all calm. He turns around, he looks at the stadium, he puts his hand like that, waves to the stadium. He says, "Do you know, I fought there," and he gives her the whole detail. That's the start of it. It's nothing to do with Fury. So half an hour later, he's with me in central London, right? And he's on the phone to Rachel, okay? His other half. He's on the phone to Rachel saying, "Did you see it? Did you see it?" And I think, and I don't want to embarrass her, I don't think she watched it, but she made out she did. And she's in the back of the room now, so I might get a dirty look.
She's sick of hearing it, but I can't sit down.
Do you remember, me and him, we were in the canteen. We're still only 8:30 in the morning. We were crying. Yeah. Watching it.
Well, they introduced me and he said, "There's a man that knows a thing or two about Wembley Stadium." And I thought, she hadn't really give it the props here. She hadn't really acknowledged. So I started the line with, "I don't know if you know, but I once fought here in front of 80,000. And it went down a tree."
And the maddest thing is, even at 7:30 in the morning, there were loads of people on social media that said, "Oh, listen to him." They just missed the whole thing. They just completely missed it. We were crying with laughter. Anyway, that's Baumgardner and Mayer was... But is there, on either of you, is there anything that's not on this list that you might throw in?
I would say there was a unification match over in the States for the super welterweight title. That's Jamal Charlo versus Brian Castano, and I think that was a rematch, and that was a really good fight. Charlo getting the win there, and I think it was 8 rounds.
It was a 4-belt job as well.
4 belts, yeah, a full unification match, and that was a real tear up. And also, I love him. That's the problem. It's Chocolatito with Estrada. Yeah, the trilogy, which was fantastic to watch.
So it's now down to me to separate you two, to work out which one it was. And as much as we've bigged up that show, that fight in Nottingham, Wood and Conlon, which was unforgettable, it's going to be Madison Square Garden that wins it. It's, in my opinion, it's got to be Taylor and Serrano, because it was relentless. And for nothing else other than that Katie Taylor ring walk that took about 5 minutes when she passed within about 5 feet of our commentary position, and she was sucking in that air because she didn't want it. That was the greatest. I think it was one of the greatest ring walks I've ever seen. Spine tingling. So that's it, Big Mo. We've gone for Taylor and Serrano, April in New York. 2 women getting $1 million each. A sold-out Madison Square Garden. The Empire State Building lit with the Irish flag and the Puerto Rican flag. And the city absolutely gripped by fight fever. And where my son Barry Jones took me out panhandling people in Central Park, making out that I was destitute, putting me on the floor with an old Dunkin' Donuts cup collecting cash. Go on, Barry, you can have a go.
You look like the pigeon lady of Home Alone. You did, didn't you?
I know.
I'll retweet that picture for people who haven't seen it.
People genuinely thought I was a down and out. I can do that. I can turn that on very easily. You know?
Did someone give you $5?
They wanted to, yeah. When you stopped to have a pee and I was standing outside, I'm sure some woman came by with a dash hound and a fur coat on, wanted to put $5 in my cup. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Big Mo, what's next?
Knockout of the year. The nominees are Lee Wood's 12th round knockout of Michael Conlon in Nottingham, Tyson Fury putting Dillian White on the canvas in the 6th round at Wembley Stadium, Joe Cordina's stunning knockout of Kenichi Ogawa in Cardiff, Deontay Wilder's famous right hand, which left Robert Helenius out for the count in New York.
Thanks very much, Big Mo. So the KO of the year, we just discussed Wood and Conlon, so let's leave that. It's a great KO. Fury and White. Carl, we were there that night, you remember? That was when, you know what happened that night after the fight? I'm going to say it now before he says it. It's really hilarious. So we're backstage, Carl and I, right, doing interviews. We're doing that, that wandering pod that we do.
Brilliant.
So Carl and I are backstage. Fury comes past us and he says, "Hey, Carl, did I ever tell you about that night? I saw 90,000 at Wembley." And so Carl turns to me and went, "That's a bit out of order. That's a bit out of order."
Yeah, he made a beeline for me, didn't he?
He made a beeline for you.
What a great entrance that was as well, by the way. I mean, it wasn't a great fight. I thought it was slow, but sometimes he doesn't get a challenge, Tyson. He's too good for him. And then it was a one-punch knockout. So for me,
it was a good knockout, wasn't it?
Great knockout.
Yeah,
it was an uppercut. It was lights out.
And he looked for it a couple of times.
Yeah, he looked for it and he landed it, and it was a great knockout and good event as well.
What about, we were talking about the Wandering, you and I were with Joe Cordina against Ogawa down in Cardiff, 2nd round. It'll take something to beat that knockout, Barry.
It was just a one punch against the run of play. I mean, it was only wrong too, but I mean, Ogawa was the puncher, Cordina was the boxer. Yeah. I joke about it because I said he went from Barry Jones to Colin Jones within a round. Yeah. He went from a guy who couldn't punch to a guy who only had
take it at one shot.
Yeah, it was just and I tell people who watch it on TV to listen back to the radio commentary, not the commentary so much. We did the 5 Live, didn't we? But you could hear the sound of the punch on the radio. You can't see it. You can just hear the whack.
Crack. It was like a crack.
And it sounds like a heavyweight hitting somebody. It was just unbelievable. I don't think Joe Cordina will never throw a punch like that in his entire life, ever again. It was the shot of all shots for me. I think that stands above it for everyone. For me, that was just
them sort of shots do happen sometimes in boxing. Like you said, he'll probably never throw one again and land like that. I mean, that was just a clean shot on the chin with a backhand, out cold.
Now, I've had one heavyweight, Tyson Fury knocking out Dillian White. Now, I thought I'd include this other heavyweight here. I thought I'd include it. I only put together, I've been a bit busy in the last couple of weeks. So, Deontay Wilder, Robert Helenius, okay? Now, some people might say, Buncey, you can't have that. Deontay Wilder knocks everybody out. But there was something almost perfect about that. He's backing away. Most people don't see the shot. A lot of people online suggest there was no shot, and he goes down sleeping Helenius. I mean, I've got to be honest with you, that was perfect. He's not going to win. I'm not going to give it to Deontay Wilder, but I did love the perfection of that.
Well, it wasn't one of his best knockouts. That's how good he is. It's one of those shots. It looks like it doesn't hit him. That's how clear. It hits him right on the button, right on the end of the chin. Yeah. It also looks like it doesn't hit him because it's such a sweeping shot. It puts him to sleep. Let's not forget, Chris Billam-Smith.
Yeah. Right at the end of the year, we're against Joe Guy.
Yeah, he set him up with a double left hook, body and head, but that right hand across the target. The kid was out before he hit the floor. It was a tremendous knockout. And Tommy Fletcher with that uppercut.
Whoa!
I'm on a roll.
You're going to read my full notes.
He's ripping up the script here.
But no.
So that's a good shout, Chris Billam-Smith.
No, but he's gone off piece.
This is the Carl Froch Hall of Famer, please.
Hold on a second. I was going to do a whole piece here about a certain night, the 26th of November, separated by 28 miles, the O2 and Wembley. 2 unbeaten young cruiserweights in the ring, both landing at the same time, but 28 miles apart. One of them was Chev Clark, landing a beautiful punch in the second round against Jose Ulrich and knocking him out on his feet. Then he doesn't go down. Chev backs off. Perfect shot. And then at the same time, Tommy Fletcher, thanks very much, Barry, landing that shot, which was perfect. So you completely ruined my sequence, my Trump sequence there. Thanks, Bal.
He does that a lot.
Doesn't he?
And I'll continue to do it.
And there's nothing wrong with doing
next
it.
category.
No. Hold on. We got to decide now. Who are you going to go for? Who's going to be the one?
Cordina.
You need to come to me first next time because he keeps nicking my answers. But that was the knockout of the year.
Cordina.
It has to be.
Joe Cordina, and there's a picture somewhere. Maybe we'll get a Manny that does all the work with us. He's still employed at the moment, which is really good news. Manny does all the work with us. That could change in a flash of honestly, Bal, could change. But Manny does all the work with us. Perhaps you'll find that picture that he took of you and I backstage with Joe Cordina. We're doing the pod. I've never seen a picture of me and you and a fighter or two. Just the celebration on our face. It was pure and utter joy.
There was a better picture that night, and it's not me hugging Cordina in the ring. It's a picture from the back of you and Ronald McIntosh, who's 6'9", and me stood in the middle.
Oh, I've seen that one, yeah.
Yeah, it literally looks like I'm laying down on the floor.
Okay, so we're going to give it to Joe Cordina for that night down in Cardiff when he won the IBF Super Featherweight title, a title he lost outside of the ring, perhaps in 2023. And next week's show, we'll talk about him winning it back. Big Mo, we are flying, son, so you're going to have to get yourself in order. What's the next category, beautiful Big Mo?
Event of the year. The nominees are Clarissa Shields versus Savannah Marshall at the O2 Arena, London. Tyson Fury versus Dillian White at Wembley Stadium. Kell Brook versus Amir Khan at the Manchester Arena. Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano at Madison Square Garden, New York.
Big Mo, thank you very much. I just have to say that I am getting feedback in my ear. We are now running 30 minutes late and we've only been on air for about 40 minutes. So that's just the way it works. Okay, you've heard the nominations there, fellas. We've mentioned some of those fights already. Let's start with one we haven't mentioned. Manchester, sold out in 6 seconds or whatever. Kell Brook, Amir Khan, as an event of the year. Not the fight of the year, an event of the year, Barry.
Yeah, because it was out the left field, let's be honest. It would have been a perfectly understandable fight that we all wanted 6, 5, 8 years ago when you just pick the timeline.
Well, let me just remind you, Kell Brook won the British title in 2008. Amir Khan won the world title in 2009.
Against Barry Jones, may I add?
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Not me, though.
You're moonlighting.
But yeah, so their career sort of, I think Khan's was way above him for a long time, but they ran parallel for a little while. You tend to think that they would meet, and they never met, and it seemed to be a fight too late. But as you say, it's not been on about the fight, on about the occasion, and it did work. It did work. You got two characters there, two big characters, two polarizing characters, a genuine dislike for each other, and that's always a good selling point.
And Carl, that was an odd fight because it all went a bit late because there was some sort of glove fiasco. Kell Brook couldn't wear the gloves he wanted to wear, but he entered the ring with those gloves. Everybody panicked, and then they had to take the gloves off him and put the other gloves on. So a bit of kidology at stake as well.
There was, yeah. And Dominic Ingle, very, very wise old fox, if you like. He's been around the fight game years with Nassim Hamed and Kell Brook and many other fighters with Junior Witter. I was over in LA with him when he fought. Love More and Do. And he just knows boxing inside out, learned a lot off his dad, Brendan. And that night, Dominic Ingle was literally you said kidology there. He was playing the game.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
he was like, right, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to get in the ring with these gloves on that we're not supposed to wear. Let Khan know what's happening. Khan's thinking the fight's off, like genuinely. He's thinking,
I'm going on.
The fight's off, I'm going home. He's got in the ring with his gloves on. Kell Brook has. They've told Amir Khan that Kell Brook's got in the ring with his gloves and he's not allowed to wear them. So he's thinking, right, well, that's it then. It's not going to happen. So he'd have relaxed and switched off. His heart would have calmed down. His adrenaline would have gone soggy. And
he's literally in the car.
He's thinking, I've done this. I'm still getting paid. I don't fancy it anyway, actually, because he must have known his legs were shot to bits in sparring. Like, he got clipped with a jab and he was gone.
Yeah.
But anyway, got in the ring. What did Dominic do? Right, let's take the gloves off then. Let's swap them.
Still, we got
Amir Khan's thinking, he's taking the glove. What do you mean he's changing his glove? He must have thought, you know what I mean? And then he's doing the ring walk. He's doing the ring walk thinking, I've just switched off. I've calmed down. I'm going home.
Do it.
And now I've got to jump in with Kell Brook.
And at some point there, as he gets through the ropes, as Amir's in there, he realises he's been played.
Exactly.
At some point, and he goes, oh, no. Yeah, now I'm in real trouble.
But what Carl talks about, that psychological game about being able to switch on and off, you do focus. It's hard to switch on once you get in the ring. It's almost too late there. You got to get that before the ring walk. You might change your mindset slightly, to enjoy things, but you have to get set in the corner. You're set.
So the mad thing here is, let's be absolutely honest. Of all the fights on this short list, okay, the Brook and Amir one was the worst fight, but it's not a fight. This is an event of the year. Shields and Marshall and the 11 women's fights, that was unbelievable. 7 Olympians, golds and bronzes, absolutely ridiculous. Fury and White, 90-odd thousand, was absolutely ridiculous. All the money that it generated and everything else. Taylor and Serrano, we've agreed, was absolutely ridiculous. So I'm going to ask you, Barry, because we've got to move on a little bit because people are really upset with how much talking you two are doing. Mostly Carl about himself, admittedly. We can edit that out. In fact, we just gave 15 minutes. Okay, we've got plenty of time. We can put our feet up and relax. No, quite seriously, which one are you going to vote for?
I would initially say Taylor Serrano because I was there and it was just a fantastic occasion. But I think you have to go for Shields and Marshall. It was an all-women card for what it meant.
Delayed by 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, all the drama that went around it, and also and just the whole setup. It sold out. A new audience as well. It's not. There's a different feel to the crowd. Yeah. Everything about it just seemed different to a normal boxing.
Do you know
setup.
On that night, Carl, I took the tube out to the O2, and on the tube there were women. Couples and women couples with kids. And it was, and I'm hand on heart, I thought everyone was going to see a production of Frozen. So I really did. That's what I thought. I thought they're going to see some sort of Disney thing. And then I realised they weren't. Those 11, 12 and 13-year-old girls were going to that boxing. So I'm not trying to persuade you. I'm not trying to sway you and say that should get event of the year. But which one would you go for?
Well, I think if you're going to give it event of the year, I mean, it's a close one with Taylor Serrano. I mean, that was a great event, and I enjoyed the Brook Khan fight because it had built up for so many years. I know it was 5, 6, 7 years too late.
And it's quite nasty. What
still happened? Yeah, and Amir Khan said a few unsavoury things on the build-up. Kell Brook was just being himself, and he was quietly confident, and you saw that in his performance. He did the business. But you're right. Marshall Shields, with it being an all-female card and the build-up to it, it was very, very unique and something that, if it happened again, you probably won't get that excited about it. You won't look back and say, you know what, that was different. So for an event of the year and something that's unique and different, I think I'd have to go for that one.
0-2, that'll do. Mo, hope you're listening. We're cracking through here, Mo. Sorry if you've got another engagement or something because he's a busy man, Big Mo, trust me. Big Mo, come on, what you got for me now? Come on. Entertain me, Big Mo. Entertain me, brother.
Non-fighting moment of the year. Carl Froch being inducted in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Conor Ben's failed drug test days before his fight against Chris Eubank Jr. Anthony Joshua's monologue in the ring after the defeat to Alexander Usyk. Tyson Fury announcing he was fighting Derek Chisora after terms couldn't be agreed with Anthony Joshua.
Carl, we will do your Hall of Fame induction. We'll do that. Would that be the last one we'll discuss? Barry, I'm going to start with you with AJ's, Mike meltdown is about the only way to describe it after the Usyk rematch, which he lost by a split decision, by the way.
Yeah, but he lost, clearly. I don't know where the split came from, to be fair. And it's fine, that's fine with that. The problem is it's the Anthony Joshua show, or it has been. So you can almost understand why he spent the next 15, 20 minutes talking about himself when he lost the fight, because it's always been about him. And everyone went there for him. Let's not forget that. They didn't go there for Usyk. They went there for him. for the fight, but really for him. And like the money was there because of him. So he and he was trying to say the right things, bless him. He was trying to say, listen, how can I get beat by this guy? And where I come from,
Maybe you should have said that. Maybe they should have been silent in his head when he's back in the hotel. Maybe.
Well, no, maybe, yeah. Someone should have grabbed hold of him.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it was Usyk's moment. That's the only thing about that. It was Usyk's moment, and he took the moment off him. And that was the things he was trying to say weren't wrong, but he just picked the wrong time to do it.
So, Carl, when you're watching it and you're watching him pick up the belt and throw it out of the ring, you're watching him reaching for mics, you're watching him ignoring everybody around him. What are you thinking when you're watching?
Ridiculous. It was ridiculous. The whole thing was ridiculous. I thought he was stupid. I thought it was totally uncalled for. And like Barry said, it's the Anthony Joshua show. It's like a kid that's bat his dummy out his pram. He's got beat fair and square. You know, being magnanimous. He's got a guy who's from Ukraine with all what's going off with the Ukrainian war. Give him his moment. He just beat you for the second time. And like Barry said, it wasn't close. It wasn't a split decision. Okay, it was on the cards, but he got conclusively outboxed Anthony Joshua. Why he didn't go for it early on for the first 6-7 rounds, I'll never know. Similar to, let's talk about me again, similar to when I fought Butte. I thought, if this goes 12 rounds, I'm getting outboxed. I went into the ring thinking, if this goes 12 rounds against his slick southpaw who can box, I'm getting done on points. So let me just go and chuck it all at him from round one. And that's what I did. And AJ's bigger, stronger, heavier, the reach, advance, everything. Just use all your physical attributes and just leave it all in the ring. And then to get beat conclusively against the top-class, world-class, elite-level fighter who's classy as well, and then behave like that, somebody save him from himself, please. Yeah, and nobody did.
That's the bit I'm really big on, is somebody save him from himself. Go on, Barry.
When he threw the belt on the ring, it was right by me. Literally, it almost hit me. And I thought, two things I thought. Wonder if I can take that. And the second thing I thought is, that wasn't Joshua's belt. It wasn't his belt. He threw someone else's belt. That was Usyk's belt.
Listen, so that was then. I don't know how close you were when the Conor Benn and Chris Eubank fight fell out of bed. But Paddy and I and Manny, we were right in the thick of it. We were right in the middle of it as that news trickled through, and we waited 7 hours for a final decision. I don't want us to get in trouble legally, and I know there's like a 280-page document from Ben's people proving his innocence, just been lodged with various people. But what was your reaction to that, Barry? I mean, try and take me back to the moment you heard, you found out, you saw, you sensed it.
Well, I was working, so gutted for a start for myself.
Lost a payday.
Do you know what? And I said this. We did the pod straight after. You know, I said selfishly, I was hoping because remember, I need to work. I'm not like Carl Frost. I need to work to make a living, and so I literally thinking like, well, he earned fortunes, man, and you know, I never. But
have you negotiated some good bunts for today? Because I'm hoping you're on the.
I couldn't cobra anyone like you. That's a problem. But either way, I was selfishly hoping it was going to go ahead.
Yeah.
So I sort of understood a little bit why they make it go ahead. They wanted to go ahead because I wanted to go ahead because I wanted to get paid. There's so much money involved, everyone panics. But when you take a step away from it,
you can't believe you was thinking.
It was just ludicrous. It was just absolutely.
We waited 24 hours.
It was just bizarre from the offset.
Steve, you threw me a little bit. Was we not together?
Yeah, we were. Yeah,
day before the weigh-in.
Yeah,
we was
were,
like waiting for the news. We wasn't sure, was we? And then all of a sudden the news came. We went straight on that.
As I said that, I realised that you and I mean, we were shocked and disappointed because we all wanted to be part of it.
Absolutely.
You know, which you can say you're shocked and disappointed, and at the same time you're not. You know, you don't want a man to fight that's failed a test, but you can say you're shocked. Of course, we were disappointed. I was so looking forward to that.
I was thinking, what's Chris Eubank going to be like at 154 pounds, taking 3 or 4 pounds below the middleweight. So he's coming down a bit. Conor Benn's obviously coming up. So can he perform at that weight? But we know he's looked quite ferocious and he's looked like the punches are hurting his opponents in his last 2 or 3 fights. Chris Eubank's been doing okay. I mean, whenever he stepped up at world level, he fought George Groves, he lost. He fought earlier than that, Billy Joe Saunders, he lost. So at world level, albeit at super middle, like middle and super middle, he's been found wanting. But this was an event. This was about the Ben Eubank name, and we all wanted to see it and what was going to happen. I mean, who do you think was going to win that? I still don't know.
No, listen, I still don't know. I went this.
Eubank was a massive favourite. Even with the weight, I think he had to be a massive favourite.
He's a favourite, but I don't know if he's massive. No, I'm not sure.
You know what? Let's draw a line under it because we might see it. Let's draw a line under it.
Yeah.
So a genuine, before we will get to the Hall of Fame. Trust me. Before that, let's do one other non-fighting category there, and very much a non-fighting category, and I really dislike it. I'm not trying to influence either of you. Is the relentless negotiating for Fury against AJ that went on and on and on. And it's nothing to celebrate, but I think it falls into our category.
I don't believe anyone believed it. That's like. No, we always say this until they've stepped in the ring, not even the ring walk, till they've stepped in the ring. Even then, it's still, we've seen a fighter walk out the ring in the past. And not fight. So until the bell rings and they start throwing punches, the fight's not happening. But with that saga between them two, that like they're all talking a big talk and everything's going ahead. It's like there's so many. It was too quick. It was getting arranged too quick for a fight of that magnitude. It was never going to happen, Carl.
Well, they agreed the money years ago before AJ before he fought Ruiz was like, well, he's got to get past Ruiz, and
they'd agreed to fight.
They'd agreed. They said, right, we've
yeah.
agreed to finance. We know what the split's going to be. The fight's going to happen. And I can remember doing my podcast with Fletcher and saying, well, this fight's not going to happen yet because they're talking about it. It's all right negotiating the fee, but these two, they've still got to fight and win, and anything can happen. And look how long it's dragged on for. And I was never a believer that the AJ Fury or Fury AJ fight was going to happen, because I just thought AJ's not going to want to jump in with Tyson Fury, get beat after he's lost. He lost 3 of his last 5 fights. Lost to Ruiz, lost twice to Usyk. Jumps in with Fury. I believe he can't. I don't think he can beat Fury. To be fair, I don't think anyone can. I don't think AJ's got the mindset now to get in there and beat Fury. So I think he knows that, and I don't think he had any intentions, unless it was going to be a massive payday, of jumping in with Fury. I think he's going to try and rebuild. He's talking about fighting Dylan White as well. I mean, that's not really a fight I would be looking forward to. I've already seen it. I'm not that interested. But there you go.
So finally, what would be the non-fighting event of the year then?
Well, hang on about what about my Hall of Fame chat? Are we not gonna? I know we've had a little talk about it, but come on, come on, what are you laughing at? This is big news. This is a big deal. This was headlining it was in all the tabloids. Did you not see it? What's he laughing at?
So we know that Carl's non-fighting event of the year was his own induction to the Boxing Hall of Fame.
Let's go. Let's stay on that for a minute.
Now, listen, Carl, all jokes aside, I was getting annoyed at any suggestions that you weren't going to get in, because there's been some great British fighters over the last 30 years, okay, that haven't got in. Some great British fighters that deserve to be in that haven't. And if they'd have overlooked you, and if you'd have been one of those guys that shows up year after year after year on the ballot, and some American who's in a great fight once for an IBF lightweight title and then lost to 6 guys gets in, there's too many of those in the Hall of Fame. It's not a criticism of the Hall of Fame. I love Ed and his son, I do. But in my opinion, there's an awful lot of really good British fighters that haven't got it. So I am genuinely delighted for you. You know I am.
I think we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Steve.
They're talking. They are screaming. Just quickly. So what's the non-fighting event of the year then, Barry? In your opinion?
Cal Froch winning the Hall of Fame. Getting in the Hall of Fame. Whatever he said.
That's a fair shout, to be honest.
You know what? We'll leave it at that, because I don't care. You're allowed to.
Listen, I think it's got to be the AJ rant. It's got to be, because everyone was talking about it. Yeah. It went viral on social media.
Bingo.
And that's the one.
And I'll tell you why it's the AJ rant, because from the position I watched that fight, I was standing up, and if you watch it back, you see my arm, you see my face. I saw that look in his eyes. I think that's a man that needs some help. He needs to step back away from boxing, and he doesn't need to be taunted and insulted by various other heavyweights, all of whom claim that they're really interested in people's mental health. Some people need to step back from giving the guy abuse. He needs a little bit of time. Big Mo, when we do the show, we do a proper show, okay? What you got for me now, baby?
The Breakthrough Boxer of the Year: Adam Azim, Fabio Wardley, Johnny Fisher, Ellie Scotney.
Big Mo, thank you very much for the Breakthrough Fighter of the Year. Now, what's interesting about this one is we've got to be fast, so it's names. There's the 4 there, but I know we could probably all come up with some other names. So we'll deal with the 4 we've got mentioned there, and then we'll introduce a couple of others, because I know there are plenty. Let's start at the top of the alphabet. Adam Azim. See what I did there, Barry? Double A. See what I did there, brother?
That's all you have to say. Adam Azim, that's the answer.
Yeah.
That's the answer to it. He's clearly the one.
It might be, and I said we'll be quick, but we've still got to give the others a chance. It's called democracy, Barry. You're not in Chile, son. You're in England. You're in a basement in Soho. Okay, it's as simple as that. We've got to give everyone a fair crack.
Well, I'm my own independent state, Steve, and I say this is Adam Azim is clearly the breakout star in world boxing.
Well, Galal, your fire's in there as well. Top amateur.
No, absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. Galal Yafai's in there. I think Andrew Kane's in there. I like Andrew Kane a lot. Let's deal with the ones that we've narrowed down. Fabio Wardley, white collar boxer, now the British heavyweight champion. So some people might say he's not a breakthrough star. I'd still argue he's a breakthrough star, Carl. Fabio. Here's a kid that I thought would lose to Nathan Gorman. I thought Nathan Gorman would have too much grade. He walked through him.
He did walk through him, and it was a good performance, solid performance. But Adam Azim, I'm with Barry.
Hey, well done, Carl.
Carry on.
The reason
Me and the Hall of
let's
Famer.
listen to the other names. Let's listen to the other name. Give us the 4 that's in the shortlist.
Mark
We've got
Tibbs'
Adam Azim.
fighter, Johnny Fisher. Big, smart heavyweight. Came through a bit of a grueling fight with a bad cut, boxed sensibly on the Daniel Jacobs and John Ryder undercard. Listen, I'm not saying he should win. I'm just saying that's a good kid.
He sells so many tickets.
Bingo.
I'd have him at every single show.
Yeah.
Every single show. I don't care who he fights. He sells so many tickets. He's fantastic to watch.
And the other one on the list, Ellie Scotney. ESPN said that they think she's the female prospect of the year. She'll get a world title fight next year. She seems to be one of the women that doesn't get picked up all the time. She's not the one that people push. But we've had her on the pod, and she's a smart little fighter. I think she's a terrific fighter.
She's a world champion in the weighting.
Yeah.
If she can get on the bantamweight with the rest of them, she might take over.
Okay, so let's stop it there. I'll take a show of hands. Yes, every single person, including the cleaner who's outside. It seems like it's Adam Azim. And there's no problem with that. Adam Azim, if you're not familiar with Adam Azim, he's 20 years of age, 7 wins from 7 fights, 6 of them early, and his 5 fights in 2022 were the third round, the first round, the first round, the first round, and the second round. And what's more, he loves his mum because she comes to ringside and he leans out the ring after he's knocked out people and kisses his mum. Adam Azim, top boy. And by the way, his brother can fight a little bit as well. Big Mo, we're cracking on. Sorry to disturb you. Can you throw another category at me, please, Big Mo? Thank you.
The International Boxer of the Year. The nominees are Naoya Inoue, Claressa Shields, Dimitri Bivol, Devin Haney.
So, International Boxer of the Year. Now, this could be a list of 30. It could be a list of 40. We've narrowed it down here, and I think you could say quite comfortably we could do 4 more. Then we could do 4 more. So, here's the thing, okay? What we're doing here, it's what we think. It's opinion, okay? This is not a law.
I got a fact, though.
Go on, son.
There's 2. One's not on the list. One is. One's Jesse Bam Rodriguez because he beat Carlos Cuadras and then he beat Sarungasai.
Yeah.
That's his introduction at late notice.
That's a good shout to make it 5 or to drop one of these.
That's unbelievable. You got Devin Haney, of course. He unifies his division in Australia against Cambosis.
Then has to go back.
But clearly, for me, Dimitri Bivol. He beat the superstar of world boxing in the superstar's home.
Yes.
Which pretty much was his Las Vegas.
Yes.
Didn't panic under the pressure and the bright lights. And then just to cement that, he boxed a massive undefeated Mexican again in Zurdo Ramirez. And put on a masterclass in doing so.
Carl?
I watched him about 5, maybe even longer, 6 or 7 years ago in a small hall in Monaco. Remember the show on Sky? And Derek Chisora was on that show. Boxed an Australian kid and he hit him with a shot. And I heard the shot land and I felt the crunch and just thought, wow, that was fast, hard, accurate. And he's a real well-schooled amateur.
Yeah.
And he takes that into the pros and digs down on his heels and he can let the shots go. And when they land, they're hurtful shots. And to go in with Canelo Alvarez and outbox him and stand in front of him at times and meet him with the punches, close quarters combat, having a fight with him and not really worrying about what was catching him or whether he's going to get clipped. I mean, what a great fighter. But Claressa Shields, for me, she's either number 1 or a real close second because she's outstanding. Yeah. Top amateur. And when she fought Savannah Marshall, I thought it was going to be a closer fight. I thought Marshall would have got her on the end of her range. Maybe she made a mistake by closing the gap a little bit and smothering her work a little bit. So. Never got on the end of her levers. But Claressa Shields, for me, I mean, it's a 50-50 for me.
And that night, I was 3 feet from the ring for Claressa Shields against Marshall, and she was Savannah boxed brilliantly. It was an incredible fight. And I saw some determination on Shields, digging her toes into the canvas. I mean, properly gritting her teeth and letting shots go and making the noises she let them go that shocked a lot of people. I've talked to a few people about that, male and female, and they noticed it as well. You know what? She may not be everybody's, to use the expression, cup of tea, but that night she showed me some things. But the Bivol fight in Vegas, basically in Canelo's backyard, where he's comfortable, where he's almost unbeatable, he's untouchable. That was a great. It's a real tight one, boys. And I've got to be honest with you. As much as there's a load of half a dozen other fighters I could have parachuted on to that list, and we haven't even touched on Inoue, by the way. We've kind of overlooked Inoue because I think that it's between Claressa and Bivol. So I'll give you two the vote. Is it Bivol? Is it Claressa?
I'll go first because I don't want you following. I don't want to follow you, and then I'm jumping on the back of you. I think it's got to be Bivol, just because he beat Canelo Alvarez. It was a great fight. He beat him clearly, and I think he's going to be really, really difficult to beat.
Yeah, I agree. Bivol, that win as well, just not falling under the pressure of the bright lights, and then cementing it with another fantastic win a few months later.
So just before we fly back to Big Mo and get the next category, should Alexander Usyk be upset he's not on the list? Should Katie Taylor be upset she's not on the list?
No, I think Usyk went over all ground, do a great win, and Katie had the one fight. I think, and that's why I think to give it to Claressa. She had the one real fight, and that's why I give it to Bivol, because he had the one great fight against the biggest name on the planet in boxing, and then put up another great performance straight after that. So he has to get it. For me, he's clearly the fighter of the year.
Clearly the fighter of the year. There's a lot of sense in this room today. I'm loving that. Big Mo, you've listened. You've persevered. What have you got for me, baby?
The British Boxer of the Year. Tyson Fury. Sonny Edwards. Natasha Jonas. Chantel Cameron.
Big Mo, thank you very much indeed. I must just say that Big Mo was paid to do 5 or 6 other categories. One of them was the best presenter of the 5 Live Boxing podcast, because you two imposters nicked my job in early December when I was otherwise engaged, the two of you. Carl nicked it earlier in the summer as well. Don't start saying anything. If I had won that category, there would have been a problem.
Listen, I would say, like, I would give it to Carl. I've never presented. He presented. He done some fantastic pods, me and Carl together, actually. We were a good team, mate.
We're decent, yeah.
You were a good presenter.
Well, the big boots to fill, aren't there, Buncey, baby? You can't follow Steve Bunce. You can't. I'm not just...
The boots are not so big, but the trousers are huge.
He's the big daddy for a reason. It's not because the big...
But the good news is there was going to be a 5 Live pundit category, which I'm truly delighted we're not going to do now.
No, mate, you'd have won that. We'd have both voted for you. Come on.
No, so we're not going to do that. And there was going to be various other things. So let's go to the last of the categories. It's the British Fighter of the Year. Carl, do you want to start? Just take me through that. What would be your 1 and 2?
Well, one of the Tyson Fury just jumps out because of what he does, and he does it time and time again. And he's got this air of invincibility about him now that when Mike Tyson was coming through, you just thought nobody can beat him. And now...
That's a very good point.
Now he's sitting there at the top, and you think, well, fighters that give everyone else a hard fight, like Derek Chisora and Dylan White, that are in there slugging away. And, I mean, Chisora took Usyk 12 rounds, and it looked like he gave him half a fight. Whether Usyk was off the gas or taking his time and feeling his way into the heavyweight division, it was a fight. It was giving him trouble. Tyson Fury just stands tall, uses his reach, puts his fast hands together, wallops a big shot in there every now and again, body or head, and just dominates.
And 2 fights, 150,000 combined for those 2 fights. That's a great shout. Sonny Edwards, pitch me Sonny Edwards, 26 years of age, 2 title defences this year. Why should he be the British Fighter of the Year?
I'm not going to give it to him, Steve.
No, I know that, but I said, why should he?
I'm the biggest Sonny Edwards fan you can find.
You are, son.
Because he is such a technically and tactically brilliant fighter. Like he comes across just as he's awkward because he has great movement. But there's thought behind everything he does. And I've said this in the past about he volunteers his chin, like, hit me. He dares you to hit him, and then he doesn't make you miss by half an inch. He doesn't slip a shot. He spins around and he taps you on the back of the head. Like, I don't know how he does it. I watch him all the time, and I'm all about footwork. You know that. And I can't figure out how he moves his feet to get where he is. It's a unique ability he has.
Like a little magician in the ring, isn't it?
He did exactly what he is.
And he works on it. I mean, one thing about Sonny, he's quite clever because obviously he has all those Twitter spats. He's undefeated. But what he does is, Carl, you were a demon when it came to training. Okay, Barry, I saw you train just one time 1,000,000,000,000,000 years ago. It was glorious. It was fantastic. But Carl, I know how much you put into it.
I was punching frozen meat.
Yeah, Rocky's here. Another thing they nick from you. But I know how much work Sonny puts in working on things. Anyway, as you say, he's probably not going to get the title tonight. I'm going to deal with the couple of women we got on this. Natasha Jonas. A sensational year, decides to gain 20 odd pounds, wins 3 versions of the world title. Some might say 1 or 2 of the opponents weren't great, but she had a shutout the 2 that went 12, and then she stopped a woman called Chris Namath, a big lump. I can say that did a job on her. She got all the belts, and Chantel Cameron actually unifying all of those light welterweight belts. The 4. So Jonas and Chantel Cameron, let's play them off against each other. Start, Barry.
Okay, well, first of all, Chantel Cameron, was one of the few fighters that's given Katie Taylor a real scare.
Problem.
When Katie Taylor was really fresh, and she made Jessica McCaskill, Chantel Cameron made Jessica McCaskill look like a novice. And I did the broadcast with the Americans for DAZN, and they thought I was brilliant. They couldn't understand the word I said, but
they loved you.
I hope so. But either way, they couldn't believe how poor McCaskill was, and I kept saying she might be poor, but Cameron's making her look poor by just using the feet in and out and now jabbing it and keeping things very simple. It was very
Could I just say, Carl, right? Could I just say that Barry's job on commentary for the American for the DAZN that night, hand on heart, and I mean this, was one of the greatest jobs by any British broadcaster in any sport in 2022. We haven't got it as a category. You and I have been brilliant at ringside. Don't get me wrong, son. We've been brilliant. We've been
absolutely brilliant.
We've been legendary at ringside.
Yeah,
but
that's a better
his
way
job
to
as the commentator, pulling the Americans, gently trying to explain to the 2 Americans, gently trying to explain to them what was happening with footwork and the way Chantel was measuring them. Those two, listen, those 2 guys would have gone home, right? And at some point that night, they would have woken up having a nightmare and they would have gone, we've just been absolutely stuffed live on air by Barry Jones, because that's what you did.
It feels like someone should be feeding me grapes.
Anyway, enough of that, Nero. So Chantel Cameron, Natasha Jonas, do me a pitch for the 2 of them, Carl.
Well, he's summed up with Chantel Cameron. Natasha Jonas, I think she's a great fighter in terms of
38 years of age, gave up boxing.
Exactly, come back into it, lost that weight. She had a child, and then you're thinking, what's going off? And she's able to perform, get herself in shape, get herself fit, and
stopped early in her career.
Stopped
early in her career, then loses.
Yeah, but when you watch her fight, you can see she knows what she's doing. She's a great little fighter. She looks for counter punches. She likes to stay in close and let the shots go. She's probably not quite quick enough in terms of hand speed, but she makes up for it with accuracy and poise. She's anticipating what's coming back. I love watching her fight. Like I said about Katie Taylor earlier, who's outstanding. She's all about work rate and fitness, and sometimes you just think she's winning every round here. And like, what's her opponent going to do? But Tasha Jonas, but I don't know. You've got Sonny Edwards and Tyson Fury, so it's going to be difficult to give one of these girls this title.
So the interesting thing is here, we decided this year after 4 or 5 years of doing 2 categories, so we'd always give 2, women's fight of the year, men's fight of the year. No, we decided this year, we're going to drag them together because it's been such a brilliant year for women's boxing. But if there was ever a category, we've done 8, whatever, we've done like 6 or 7 in this show. If ever there was a category where we could have done 2, but I'm going to refuse to do 2. So we've got to choose. We've got to make a decision.
Can I just bring a name in? And he was nowhere near world level.
But
Dan Aziz.
Okay, I'm throwing another one in. John Ryder.
2
great wins against the odds.
But Dan Aziz.
No,
he just introduced himself at the British level. And he's
South London Marvin Hagler.
He's an orthodox Marvin Hagler who could box both stances.
Velvet Schultz as well.
He jumps in. Well, I covered early in his career. I was mentioning I made that thing with him and Hagler back then, and I'll take credit for that. But he jumps into the jab, but he's done fantastically well. And the other night he had a great win. But for me, I think overall, I think you have to give it to Natasha Jonas, coming out of her weight class against naturally bigger women and adapting her style to be successful.
Carl, what do you say? Because I'm going to have the casting vote on this one.
I think it's easy to overlook Tyson Fury, which I think Barry Jones has done because it's Tyson Fury and because he's He's such a big name. He fills stadiums every time he fights, even if the opponent's not quite. If people don't think he can they've got no chance really, they'll still turn up to watch him. And I think because of that and because of what he's done in his dominance in the division, I think I've got to give it to Tyson Fury.
Barry, I'm going to go, you know how much I love you. I'm going to go with a Hall of Famer. I'm going to go with him.
And why wouldn't you?
Oh, exactly. So I'm backing you all the way.
It's my anniversary if I won the world title for 25 years today.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I thought I'd guess something out of it.
No, you've got loads out of this today. You've got loads out of this today. We haven't asked you to shave your chest live on air. Okay, which we could have. We'd have been perfectly entitled to. I'll tell you what, that is what you call a review of the year show. It's been a pleasure and an absolute delight. Mighty Mo, Big Mo,
fuming.
King Mo. No, he's not fuming. He's still got paid, whether we read out 30 of these things or we read out 7. Big Mo has been absolutely brilliant. Big Mo, thank you. Barry Jones, you've been, as usual, exceptional. I gave you such a plug there by that. We're talking about your commentary, by the way. You're entitled to give me a few quid for that, if you don't understand. Carl, it's always a pleasure and a delight doing business with you. What a year. What a year. 2022, a boxing year. Thank you for all of your listening, all of the pods you've downloaded, all of your loyalty. And remember, next week, we're going to look ahead to 2023. I've got a fantastic panel lined up. I'm not going to give you all of their names, but I will say that Barry Jones will be returning with that glorious chest. What a time to be a boxing fan. 2022 is nearly done. It's nearly 2023. Thank you for everything this year. And good night.
Let's get ready to rumble!
5 Live Boxing.